carry across. Mr. Randall?
Thank you, Annie. Yeah, let me say as well, thanks to SIOS for organizing this whole thing on their system. I truly appreciate it. Gareth, thank you for your support and help and showing me how which button to press and what to do. Okay, good morning, everyone. I have been asked just to start a conversation before the webinar and to try and set the table for the actual presentations that are going to follow. Okay, so what I'd like to do is I'd like to look at this thing and say to myself, how do I simplify the concept of, and I paraphrase here, associations and professional bodies and training providers, what are the differences and does it really matter? Having said that, let's just look at the following situation, a simplistic example of it, okay? We are in the middle of the flu epidemic or the flu thing that's going around and a lot of people are sick from it. So now, let's ask the question. If you are sick, would you go to the university that taught the doctor or maybe go off to the medical aid? Or do you actually then rather go to the doctor? There is a common connection between these three legs that are supporting healthcare. Okay, here we go. The first is that the university, in this case, the training provider in brackets, they gave the skills to the learner and they allowed the learner after many sessions and training and skills that they were transferring to him and whatever. And they then looked at this person and said, okay, yeah, you're now good enough. And that doctor or that person then goes off to the health professions council. That is, of course, their professional body and is awarded the title of doctor. And that doctor can now go and offer medical care services to the public. But of course, as you all know, there's no such thing as a doctor. Right? There are various varieties of them. And also we know that this service could be expensive. So what you have to do is you have to go to the right one. You're not going to go to a heart surgeon if you've got a toothache, okay? So all of those different doctor services and the way that they operate and where they are and whatever, that needs to be managed by some sort of a body. And that body, in this particular case, a medical aid, which happens to be the equivalent of what we would call an association, okay? They get to know the different doctors and the services that each doctor provides. And they can then make the decision to tell you, listen, go to this particular doctor or go and get the service from this particular institution where you will get the services that you need. All three of these bodies, they're separate and yet they are linked as roles in your well-being. But, excuse me, it's very important that we know the different roles. Let me just clear my throat. Hold on a second, please. As you can hear, I'm still getting over this horrible flu. Okay, so this morning, I think we should explore, and I know we will, the different functions of these role players. And then we'll get an insight into their structures and what they stand for, what they do, how do they benefit us. Industry sometimes confuses the roles of these three bodies, and it might expect answers and solutions to their problems, but from the wrong body. So we need to remove these misconceptions so that our customers engage with the correct organization, depending on what they specifically need. Okay, so that to me is the simplistic explanation of what we are going to be discussing today. But we're going to now obviously hear from professionals who can handle this. So with that, I'll hand back to Anli, and I hope that my opening speech sets the table properly. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brian. Appreciate that intro. Our first speaker I'm going to introduce is Mr. Brandon Conradi from Africa's leading roofing federation, which some of you might have also known that used to be PRAVA. Mr. Brandon, thank you for your time and your presentation.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Let me just quickly share my screen. Are you able to see that?
Yeah, you're good to go, Brandon. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Brian, and thank you, Institute of Working at Heights and Master Builders Association North, for putting this session together. My name is Brandon Conradi. I'm here today representing the African Federation of Roofing Contractors, or AFRC, and I want to start with something simple. The roofing and waterproofing industry has never really had what other parts of the built environment already have, and that's its own collective voice, its own centralized hub for standards, and that's really the story I want to tell today. Just check. As Brian mentioned in his opening, the whole session is built around the central idea of knowing the difference between an association, a professional body, and a training provider. These are very different things, often confused and often lumped together. And my role today is talking on one of those three, which is the role of what an association plays in all of this. So let's get into it. Firstly, let me tell you what an association is not. It's not a professional body. It doesn't certify individuals or grant them protected titles. If you're looking for that kind of recognition, like the letters B in front of your name or a legal registration to practice, that's not what an association does. It's also not a training provider. It doesn't deliver the qualification, and it doesn't teach the skill itself. Although an association promotes training and connects the industry to it, it's a different function entirely. So what is it? Association is a collective voice for an industry. Its mission is advocacy and industry level standards and representation to government, to insurers, to stakeholders, and to the public. It exists to speak on behalf of a whole industry and not just regulate one individual within it. And it isn't just a technical distinction. It actually plays out in real life. A professional body looks after the public by keeping individuals accountable, and a training provider builds the skill. The association stands up for the people and the businesses doing the work. 3 different jobs, 3 different purposes, and you need all 3, and none can do each other's job. So now here's the honest truth about roofing. Historically, we didn't have any of this structure. No unified body doing the job for the trade. And that's actually the gap AFRC was built to close. So why roofing and waterproofing, and why now? Roofing is one of the more fragmented trades in the entire construction sector. There's a large number of small operators, a wide variation of what is considered standards from one contractor to another, and critically no unified body speaking on the industry's behalf. This fragmentation has real consequences, and I want to just go through them with you. Firstly, price undercutting. When there's no shared standard to compete on, the only thing left is to compete on is price. That's a race to the bottom where workmanship and standards takes the biggest hit. And everyone in the room, in the roofing trade, knows exactly what that looks like. Secondly, reputational damage. A handful of bad contractors in a fragmented industry end up reflecting on the whole trade. And without a structure in place, there's not been a way to push back on that, and no way to say that that's not representative of who we are as an industry. And then thirdly, there's no influence. For example, if insurers change how they assess claims, or when regulators update codes, or when the municipality shifts policies that directly affects roofing, the industry has no seat at the table on making the decision about roofing and waterproofing. So now I want to make this clear. This isn't a new problem, and it isn't unique to roofing. Other parts of the construction sector have faced exactly the same challenges and solved it in the same way. Fragmented sectors at some point realized that not having a seat at the table until they organize around a single voice. That realization isn't new, and it's been the pattern across the industry for decades. Roofing is simply applying the same logic to a trade that's never had it before. So let me bring you down to earth and tell you specifically what it looks like in practice. AFRC sets industry-level standards and best practices in a framework for roofing contractors, not individual certification, as it's not our role, but a shared baseline on how the industry should operate, a common reference point for good roofing practice. And that means the same thing whether you're in Johannesburg or in Cape Town. AFRC represents contractors' interests directly to external stakeholders, giving the industry a formal channel that simply didn't exist before. A place where roofing has a voice that actually can be heard, instead of a roofing being an afterthought of someone else's conversation. AFRC builds a collective credibility, and it gives you a practical, and to give you a practical example of what that looks like, working directly with insurers to show you what the industry can self-regulate and verify their own standard, rather than waiting to be regulated onto by someone from the outside that is not part of the industry, who doesn't understand everything the way we do. That's fundamentally a different relationship. One where the industry is a partner in setting standards and not just a subject of them. Now, here's one point I would like to land clearly. Because it's the foundation of everything that needs to be built on it, an association like this only works, only has any credibility if there's no commercial stake in the outcomes of its overseeing. No interest in claims volume, no interest in repair work. The moment an association starts benefiting outside of the very thing it's meant to objectively assess, the whole voice of the industry falls apart. Independent isn't a nice to have here. It's the whole entire point. I'll touch briefly on the business value of that, and I'll keep this short. Being represented isn't just goodwill. It's leverage, it's credibility with your clients, and it's a stronger standing as a company. And it's a collective voice that simply carries further than any single contractor negotiating alone ever could. So let me bring you back to where I started. The whole session is about knowing the difference between an association, a professional body, and a training provider. An association represents and advocates the industry as a whole through uplifting and setting out the standards that is necessary for the industry to prosper. That's distinct from certifying individuals and distinct from giving people the skills to help them do their job. All three matter, and all three are equally important, and is not competing with each other. It's simply just different layers of what makes an industry successful. Roofing is still early in building this structure, but it's underway, and I want to leave you with an open invitation. This is a young and growing association, and there's real room for more contractors to be a part of it. So I say with that, thank you so much, and I'll give it back to you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Conradi. That was very insightful. I think it gives a clear understanding to the industry of what an association actually is and does for the industry. The next speaker I'm going to introduce is Mr. Gerard Roots, who is from NBA North. Mr. Gerard. Mr. Gerard Roots.
Hi,
Almost.
good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Let me just project this. Hi. No. No. Oh, yeah. Okay. Annelie, I'm just going to project now.
100%. Thank you, Gerard.
Okay. You see here is, okay, let me just ask Mbuya to help me. What did you?
Hi, Anli, if you can just get Gerard's presentation on standby, please.
Yes, I've got it. Gerard, would you like to me? Okay, 100%.
Okay. Is my presentation visible?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Good. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Apology for the small delay. Thank you very much for the opportunity to be part of this wonderful initiative and also to discuss the differences between professional bodies, professional trained providers as well, and then of course your different voluntary associations, of which MBA North is one. I would like to just go back to the first slide, and I would like to say that in terms of the skyline, in terms of my introduction for today, is the construction industry depends on competent people, credible organizations, and effective collaboration. However, there's often confusion regarding representative roles of industry associations, professional bodies, and training providers. Although these organizations complement each other, they each fulfill a distinct function. Understanding these differences enable businesses to make an informed decision. Decisions that strengthen the compliance, improve competence, reduce risk, and enhance their professional reputation. I would also like to say that industry participation is not about adding another logo to your email signature. It's about adding value to your people, credibility to your business, and confidence to the industry that we serve. If you look at a screen, I would like to take you also back to a very famous poem written by Don Merrill. And through my career at MBA North for the last 17 years, I've used this poem frequently, and it's something that relates to me, and it's definitely relating to the association. And that's why we say, I chose to look the other way. And the poem is in that manner written that I could have saved her life that day, but I chose to look the other way. So that is why it is so important for the three stakeholders, the training providers, the professional bodies, and the voluntary associations to work together to collaboratively achieve the common goal of saving life and preserving life and making sure that our family members and the breadwinners go home safely at night. Then I would like to take you back why industry participation matters. So my predecessor there's a picture of him. His name is Mr. Doug Michel. He's currently staying in the UK. And he was my predecessor. He actually appointed me at MBA North as a young health and safety officer in 2009. Not so young, but many years ago. And then, of course, I met Mr. Brian Randall. So the IWH just came into existence, the professional body, in 2009. January, but I know there was a lot of work that happened before the actual inauguration. And these two gentlemen, men, were my mentors. And even today, I speak to both of them, and that's my inspiration to look at a perfect example of why industries should work together. Yes, they have different opinions, and but both of them have rightfully have the best intention for the industry and for the professional body, and collectively that's making a difference, and is also inspiring me to be to have the same opinion as them eventually. And I want to also say, alone we can do so little, but together we can do so much. And that is a quote from Helen Keller. Then the three organizations, the three different roles, together they create a stronger construction industry. So our focus at MBA North is more on construction health and safety activities. We're a VA, we register our members as voluntary association, and they participate in a number of our events. But I would like to just mention here, so when it comes to industry associations, we represent, MBA North represent the 4 provinces, is Gauteng, Limpopo, Mpumalanga, and Northwest, and the Vaal Triangle, and we are affiliated to the federation. The federation is Master Builders South Africa. So in each region or province or different provinces, you'll find different MBAs that is affiliated to MBSA. So what we do is we support businesses. Majority of our members is small SMME contractors. Then you have your middle tier contractors, and then you also have your top 5, 6 big construction companies that we also represent. We represent all of our members in terms of the representation on government level. We also engage with the unions. We have a lot of webinars and seminars that also discuss hot topics like recently we discussed site invasions, just to mention one of many that we've done. We share best practice within our association, and we build relationships. Now, to build relationships is very important because you need to know who is your friends in industry. You need to work together. You need to collaborate together. And ultimately, at MBA North, we strive to de-silo the industry so that we can talk to the ASAQS, the quantity surveyors, and the architects, and the construction managers, and the universities, because there's a part, there's a role for each designation, and we learned a long time ago that if we work in isolation or in our little silo, that we won't achieve much success, and we will definitely not represent our members in the correct and best way. A professional body like the IWH recognizes professionals, awards professional designations, uphold ethical standards similar to us, very important, and then protects the public. Training providers, on the other hand, delivers training, develop skills, assess competence, and issue certificates. So at MBA North, I would like to say that the Master Builders Association North came into existence in 1903, and we are very proud of the history of MBA North. We celebrated 125 years recently, and it's just very inspiring to work for MBA North. So our mission is saying that providing services that matter to our members. That services doesn't matter what your challenge is. We try to assist our members with those, and we also like to share our successes. There's a lot of articles. There's a very active LinkedIn page. We have newsletters where we celebrate and acknowledge all the hard work that our construction industry is doing. So I would like to also promote this to the participants, and please go and have a look at our social media. Join us. There's no cost, and you can receive our monthly newsletters and even join our LinkedIn page. The second bullet is facilitate best practice throughout the construction sector. Best practice is very important. Yes, you have legislation that you need to adhere to, but best practice for our SMMEs, setting the benchmark and leading and guiding them and mentoring our smaller contractors to become that big WBHO or GVK Siazama one day. That is why there is a big brother, and the big brother is called MBA North, because that's what we like to be associated with. Building relationships and networks that makes a difference. We are the home of the contractors. We have several engagements here during the year. We have a small builders development course. We have new member engagements. And please, if you need any information, you can also call upon us, and we would gladly invite you and show you our beautiful premises and also the work that we've done for our members. Enabling sustainable transformation. Yes, transformation is very important, and we do adhere to that code and conduct. And then retaining and growing our membership base. So many years ago, myself and Anli and some of our other industry partners, SAFSEC, Black Business Council, FEM, we went to the provinces. We went collectively to Polokwane, hosted a webinar, a seminar there that was pre-COVID, and we went to Nelspruit, and we also went to Northwest, to Klerksdorp, and we visited these smaller towns with anticipation for our members in the outlying regions to join us. And each of us had the opportunity to deliver a presentation there. And that's how we eventually got to work together and also to de-silo our initiatives and making a stronger construction industry. So if somebody calls me and there's any questions about working at Heights or any one of the chamber chairs or the chambers that IWH represent, I can proudly refer that call or that inquiry to IWH, and I know that similar to what we are doing here, that person will be assisted in the correct manner, effectively as well. Then our business benefits is our reputation. So to have to be in business for 127 years is quite a reputation. We have technical support. We have a full in-house construction health and safety department that can assist with health and safety matters, occupational health and safety matters. But other than that, we have a good network. So if you come to me and you say you have a problem with noise-induced hearing loss, asbestosis, or any of those, I can immediately say I can refer you to Oshcare. Oshcare is one of our members, and Oshcare is also being represented here today. So we have a very strong network. If I can't assist you, I definitely know where to guide you to get that expert professional opinion. Legal assistance, we have a department that assists our members with legal assistance, especially when it comes to contracts, JBCC contracts, and NEC contracts. So that is department that's also there for our members to unlock their potential and also to get trained on the specific contracts. And then industry recognition. Our three biggest events per year is we have our annual golf day. That is an industry, that is a day where we invite the construction industry and our associations and also our partners like IWH to join us on that day to network. And we can proudly say this year again on the 11th of June, it was sold out. The golf day was sold out 2 months in advance, and that was a wonderful networking opportunity. And thank you very much for IWH for supporting us on that particular day. And then business development. We assist also with training, and one of the training courses that we present through Mr. Graham Alexander is how to quote, especially if you're a small business, how to make sure that your quote is in line and you are making, or you are going to make a profit and not a loss. Then the Institute of Work at Heights, I'm just going to tell you on the benefits there. So like I said, the Institute of Work at Heights was formally established in January 2009. And Mr. Randall, I hope I got this right. So they are 17 years in business, and the professional body provides professional designations, ethical accountability, a code of conduct, professional recognition, continuing professional development, public confidence, independent oversight, and lastly, professional registration demonstrates competence, integrity, and accountability. Now, I would like to share you a picture. This was my first fall protection plan development training way back in 2010. I did it through a very reputable working at Heights company that is well known. And on that particular day, we had the opportunity to do our assessment and also to submit our fall protection plan for approval. But the most exciting part of this whole fall protection plan development training or developer training was that I got the 2-year professional designation from IWH. And I thought, wow, yes, this is great. Now I can add something to my CV. And so that's a wonderful initiative that IWH, on their introduction, when I actually met them for the first time, I got a certificate to show, yes, Gerard, you did pass and you did meet the minimum requirements. So when it comes to training providers develop knowledge and competence. They deliver recognized learning programs, assess competence, issue certificates, and then prepare learners for the industry. And then also to remember is training develops competence, professional bodies recognize competence, industry associations like MBA North strengthen business opportunities. So I'm very proud of my certificate, and I did update it several times after that initial introduction. Then the business value. The business value of MBA North is very important because I would like to draw your attention to the picture. So my executive director at MBA North, his name is Mahao Mpumela, and you'll see that he's right in front, and the lady, our female lady colleague with the blue heart hat is Sheila Mofokeng. She's the marketing officer. This particular project was the new AXA building at the ORT airport. And that was 2018, 2019, and that project went through during COVID. But what is so important is that, and why I'm displaying this picture is because I want to show you that we are going out to our members. We are going out to the sites. We have a competition, health and safety competition, and an annual dinner where we recognize our long-standing members. But on this particular day, we had the opportunity to go to a national key point. So that's one of the sites where you can't just knock and then say, please take me to the penthouse, or at the Reserve Bank, you can knock in Pretoria, and you can go up the flight of stairs. But when WBHO is working on that project, you get to go to the roof. When Tiber Construction is building that new AXA building, you get to get these beautiful pictures with the aeroplanes in the background. But what I would like to say is that this is when we participate, and that is also businesses that participate in excellence, companies that participate in our health and safety competitions. Yes, there's a lot of entries. Sometimes the results is not favorable. It's all about a competition. Everybody wants to win, but we do honor our commitment, and it's a very prestigious occasion. So through this business value, we say better compliance. If we visit your site, you know that all the boxes are ticked, and if there's any challenges, we will bring it to your attention before we leave the site. Stronger safety culture, improved competency. We do look at competency certificates. We do our health and safety audits. We do our health and safety competitions. We look at the competency certificates. We look at if it's obvious if there's falsified documents. And the same with your letter of good standing. We work very closely with FEM. We are a grant recipient of FEM, and FEM frequently hosts a discussion for us how to identify your fraudulent letter of good standings. And in the past, it was also hosted by IWH, and we know what to look for if there's a professional registration in front of you to identify falsified documents. Then we say greater client confidence. If the clients and our members see that MBA North, there's tracks and traces of MBA North on the projects, they feel that relief. We work closely with Department of Employment and Labour, and they put a huge reliance on us as well to make sure that we do our work ethically, and we are accountable for what we do. And that's putting our members also at ease. Well, when it comes to tender competitiveness, as any health and safety competition, if you win a first place or you get awarded a certificate and you include it in your tender application for your next project, it will definitely hold, it will count to the bigger collective value. Stronger professional networks, that is what all the forums and health and safety webinars that we have. We have a health and safety forum that meets bi-monthly. We have quarterly webinars that we are hosting today in collaboration with IWH. And during these, we discuss reduced business risk and also continuous improvement. And then the question is why it matters. Why does it matter to be a member with an association, especially MBA North? Why does it matter to be registered with IWH? Why does it matter to use a reputable training provider? Well, the answer is that participation creates knowledge, you build relationships, you promote innovation, you foster leadership and credibility. But I'm so proud about the last bullet is that business growth. At MBA North, we bought 1,044 on the dot, and I've double-checked the figure with Ms. Jeanette Boxall, the accountant for IWH, on a number. since how many IWH guidelines did we buy and distribute since 2018? So our motto at MBA North is we produce health and safety files. There's a lot of companies in the industry. You can get your health and safety file at any second health and safety consultant, but we proud ourselves to say that we have a package that there's also exposure to our partners. So our motto is none of our health and safety files will go out to the industry without a copy of the IWH Work at Height guidelines. And I'm very proud to say that I was part of the steering committee many years ago, and I think the second revision is in making now. And then the Health and Safety Act, or the OSH Act, is also part of that package. So none of these health and safety files will leave our office without those documents. IWH does immaculate work. They have the IWH guidelines now on a app, so we circulated that app as well, and we also support this Monday initiative where we distribute that video clips to the industry. So I can proudly say that we will definitely continue with this initiative, and is to create awareness. Yes, you order 10 health and safety files, you have 10 OSH Acts, and you have 15 IWH guidelines, but I do believe that if you distribute it and hand it out, it will go to good use, and at the end of the day, we can preserve life. Our legacy at MBA North, our greatest achievement is not to just build the buildings that we completed, the Sandtons. Sandton is the metropole. In the last 2 decades, everybody had a project, not anybody, but majority of our members had buildings and projects in Sandton. And there's just no more space. And I saw a news article end of last year, and it was with exciting words to say, yes, the tower cranes happy, the tower cranes have returned to Sandton. And I was also excited because I actually did 2 site visits on the projects where the tower cranes are. So it is exciting. But the whole construction industry, the shift, moved now to another region in our domain, and that is Polokwane. So for the first time in the last 17 years, with our health and safety competition, for projects 750 million plus, there was no entries in Sandton. Sandton is built up, but there's 2 projects in Polokwane, and I can proudly say both of them are members with us. The one project is ENZA. It's more than 4 billion rand project. That is the Polokwane Central Development Hospital that the community so desperately needs. And the second project is Trencon Construction. They've just started with the Radisson Blue Hotel. So there's no more projects in Sandton. The shift is going to Polokwane and Mpumalanga. So our greatest achievement is ensuring that every person who helped build those iconic buildings returned home safely to the people who they love the most. That is our vehicle. We have the training vehicle that we sent out, proudly supported by FEM Builders Warehouse. OSH Cares logo is there as well. Proud member with us since 2013, and also BESIMA, the preferred medical aid in the construction industry. This vehicle, we do induction training in 5 languages, and we also have a professional construction health and safety officer to engage in the group discussion. So please don't hesitate. If you're a member or a FEM policyholder, please don't hesitate to contact us, and we would gladly send a vehicle to your premises or your site. Then I would like to say thank you very much for the opportunity. It's much appreciated to all the participants and the organizers for today. It's an absolute honor to be part of this. And I would really like to say the true measure of our success is not the skyline we leave behind, but it's the families we keep together while building it. And it's also going back to Don Merrill's quote. But I would like to say thank you very much. If there's any questions, Program Director, if there's questions, if you'd like me to answer a question now, or if the time is limited, please post those questions in the Q&A, and I will get to answer them. Thank you, Program Director. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gerard. We appreciate your presentation. As everyone is saying, it's been a very informative presentation that's giving them a lot of information. I don't see any questions at the moment for you. But if, like Mr. Gerard said, if anyone's got a question, we've got a Q&A box, please ask it there so we can respond accordingly. And thank you once again. I'm going to introduce our next speaker, Ms. Lizani Wolf from the Institute for Work at Heights, who's talking on behalf of the professional body. Ms. Lizani.
Thanks, Andy. Good morning, everyone. So, thank you for the opportunity. When we think about a professional, we often think about qualifications or years of experience. While these are certainly important, professionalism goes much further. It is about competence, ethical behavior, accountability, and a commitment to continuous improvement throughout one's career. Professional bodies exist to support these principles. They help establish standards, recognize competence, and provide confidence to employers, clients, regulators, and
Lizani?
industry.
Sorry.
Yes.
If you can just, we can't see your screen.
You can't?
No. If you can just share your presentation with us, please.
Sorry about that.
There we go. Thank you.
So I would like to explore what professional bodies are, why they matter, and how professional recognition continues to stronger professions and better outcomes for everyone. Qualifications open doors, but competence builds trust. Professional bodies help transform learning into recognized professional practice, ensuring that South Africa develops professionals who are competent, ethical, and committed to lifelong learning. A professional body is often described as the guardian of a profession. Its role extends beyond representing its members. It defines what good professional practice looks like, establishes competency, standards, and promotes ethical conduct. Unlike skills development providers, which focus on teaching, or regulators, which enforces legislation, professional bodies recognize professionals who have demonstrated competence and continue to support them throughout their careers. Ultimately, professional bodies exist to strengthen professions while protecting the interest of employers, clients, and the wider public. South Africa has developed a comprehensive education and training system through the National Qualifications Framework, or the NQF. Within this system, professional bodies play a unique role. While universities, colleges, and training providers focus on education and qualifications, professional bodies recognize professional competence. A qualification tells us what everyone has learned. A professional designation tells us that an individual has demonstrated competence, gained relevant experience, and continues to develop professionally. Professional bodies therefore provide an important bridge between education and the workplace. They help ensure that industries have competent professionals who meet nationally recognized standards and who continue to maintain those standards throughout their careers. A professional recognition is often misunderstood as simply receiving a certificate or a title. In reality, It is an independent confirmation that an individual has demonstrated competence against recognized standards. This means looking beyond qualifications or consider practical experience, workplace performance, ethical behavior, and ongoing professional development. The focus is on competence in practice, not simply knowledge. A professional designation is a public statement that an individual has met recognized competency requirements. Importantly, it is not awarded for attending a course alone. It recognizes a combination of education, experience, competence, and ethical practice. Equally important is the understanding that professional designations are maintained through continual professional development and adherence to a code of conduct. This journey illustrates that becoming a recognized professional is a process rather than a single event. Each stage builds on the previous one. From acquiring knowledge and practical skills to demonstrate competence through assessment, registration is not the end of the journey. Maintaining competence through CPD and periodic renewal ensures that professionals continue to meet evolving industry standards. A competency framework provides a structured description of what professionals should know, what they should be able to do, and how they should conduct themselves. It creates consistency across a profession and provides clear expectations for practitioners at different stages of their careers. Competency frameworks also support fair and objective assessment by ensuring everyone is measured against the same standards. Competence is often described as the ability to apply knowledge and skills effectively in the workplace. Two people may hold the same qualification, but their ability to make sound decisions, solve problems, and performing consistently may differ significantly. Professional bodies therefore assess competence holistically, recognizing that technical knowledge must be combined with experience, judgment, and ethical behavior. Every profession changes continuously. New methods, revised standards, and evolving legislation require professionals to maintain current throughout their careers. Professional knowledge has a limited shelf life. Industries evolve, technology advances, legislation change, and new best practices emerge. CPD ensures professionals continue learning throughout their careers, so that competence remains current and relevant. Lifelong learning is one of the defining characteristics of every successful profession. Professional development can take many forms. It is not limited to a formal course. Sharing knowledge, conducting research, mentoring colleagues, and participating in professional committees all contribute to developing both the individual and the profession. CPD recognizes that valuable learning happens throughout a professional career. Technical competence without ethical conduct is insufficient. Professionals are trusted because they are expected to make responsible decisions, even when those decisions may be difficult. Ethical behavior builds confidence, protects the public, and strengthens the reputation of the profession as a whole. History has shown us that many organizational failures are not caused by a lack of technical knowledge, but by poor ethical decisions. Professional bodies therefore place significant emphasis on codes of conduct and ethical standards because trust is fundamental to every profession. For employers, professional recognition provides confidence that employees have demonstrated competence against recognized standards. This reduces recruitment risk, supports organizational quality, and contributes to stronger performance. It also provides a structured framework for employee development and career progression. For For individuals, professional recognition is about much more than just words linked to their name. It demonstrates commitment to professionalism, lifelong learning, and ethical practice. It also opens opportunities for networking, leadership, and continued career growth. When professions are supported by strong professional bodies, everyone benefits. Employers gain confidence, practitioners have clear development pathways, clients receive better services, and industry benefits from competent, ethical professionals. Professional bodies therefore contribute not only to the individual's career, but also to national development. South Africa faces ongoing challenges relating to skills shortages, youth employment, and economic growth. Professional bodies contribute by creating structured professional pathways that recognize competence, encourage continued learning, and support career progression. They also work closely with skills development providers, employers, and industry stakeholders to ensure that professional standards remain relevant to the needs of the economy. Ultimately, professional bodies help ensure that qualifications or regulated skills are translated into competence, and that competence is translated into professional practice. So if there's one message I would like you to take away today, it is this. Professional recognition is not about status. It is about responsibility. Professional bodies help ensure that competence is recognized, maintained, and continually developed. In doing so, they strengthen professions, organizations, and ultimately society. I want to thank you for your time, and I hope this presentation has highlighted the important role professional bodies play in supporting competent professionals and building confidence in the professions they represent. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Ms. Lizani. Appreciate your very thorough presentation and the information you provided this morning. We are going to move over to a quick 10-minute break, just so everyone can do what they need to do. Then we will be back for the rest of our presentations and information to share with the industry. Thank you, Gareth. Welcome back, everyone. I hope the 10-minute break was quick enough or long enough. I am going to introduce our next speaker, who will be talking on behalf of training providers developing skills and competence, Mr. Johan van Staden Kutzer from Starcrow 36. Mr. Johan.
Thank you, Anli, and good morning, everyone. Let me just share my screen. Anli, can you just confirm that you can see it?
Yes, thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much for allowing me the opportunity to speak on behalf of training providers this morning. And my topic that I will be covering is developing skills and competence in the workplace. So in this, I'm going to look at I'm going to touch on different topics. Firstly, the role of training providers, then training versus competence. I'm also going to look at just briefly on accredited training and quality assurance. Then I am also going to touch on an employer's responsibilities when selecting training providers. And then lastly, the importance of practical assessment and workplace application. All right, so with the role of the training provider, training providers play a critical role in developing the knowledge, the skills, and the competence of employees within the workplace. They serve as a link between the industry's requirements, the regulatory standards, as well as workforce development by delivering structured learning programs that prepare learners to perform safely and effectively in their roles. Right, so the key functions of training providers, there's different functions, so I'm going to just briefly talk about the different ones. Firstly, being training delivery. Training providers facilitate learning through classroom-based, practical, workplace, as well as blended learning methodologies, obviously depending on what the program is that they are presenting. These pillars are then addressed accordingly, whether, like I said, depending on which program it is. The role is to ensure that learners understand both the theoretical concepts as well as the practical applications in the workplace. And that's the basic foundation of any training program. Okay, then on the assessment of learners, training providers conduct assessments to determine whether learners have achieved the required learning outcomes and can demonstrate the necessary knowledge and skills. This is where we come in and we do a final assessment where we actually stand and we test them on their knowledge and then stand with the checklists while observing them in the workplace to make sure that they can actually do everything that they were taught according to the requirements, previously the unit standards, now moving over to the occupational qualifications. Okay, then also a large function for a training provider is the development of learning material. Providers develop and maintain learning materials that align with industry requirements, qualification specifications, unit standards, and occupational curricula. Right, so we are now in this transition phase where we work between unit standards as well as occupational qualifications. So it's quite, I think I speak for all providers if I say at this stage, we are all quite busy with realigning for the occupational qualifications that the QCTO is driving. Skills development. Training providers contribute to the development of competent employees who can perform tasks safely, efficiently, and in accordance with workplace requirements. That is our biggest role in the industry, is to make sure that when we train people, they are able to do what they're supposed to do by applying the knowledge as well as the practical skills in the workplace. We also then provide compliance support where accredited providers assist employers in meeting legislative, industry, and client requirements relating to training, certification, and competency development. It's not just a mere fact of coming in and training people. There is compliance involved where we have to adhere to all these legislations as put out by the different departments as well as the industry. Record keeping. Training providers maintain learner records, assessment evidence, attendance registers, and certification records in accordance with regulatory requirements. There is specific requirements to this where we have to keep records of all training that we have conducted for a certain period of time, and make sure it is available on request. Right, then training versus competence. It is important that people or everybody understand the difference between training and competence. Many organizations mistakenly assume that training automatically results in competence. That's not true. It's not to say that if you undergo training, you are going to be competent. It depends on a number of factors. While training is an important step in the development process, it does not guarantee that an individual is competent. Right? It all depends on a lot of different criteria at the end of the day to deserve or result in a competent learner. Training is the process of providing knowledge, skills, and understanding through structured learning activities. Training will focus on learning new information, understanding procedures, developing skills, creating awareness, and training basically answers the question, has the learner been taught? So if you adhere or you've gone through all those 4 bullet points, the question will come up, has the learner been taught? Did you train him as effectively as you could have? Then on the other side of competence, competence is the demonstrated ability to perform a task safely, effectively, consistently, and according to established standards in the workplace. Competence focus on practical application, whether they can actually do it, consistent performance, safe execution of tasks, demonstrated capability. And then competence answers the question, can the learner perform the task correctly in the workplace? So training was he taught correctly? And competence is, can he actually do what he is supposed to do in the workplace? The relationship between training and competence. Training is, to put it short and sweet, training is the input, competence is the outcome. So training is what you give to the learner, and in competence, he needs to demonstrate back to you that he actually can do what he is supposed to be doing. Before being considered fully competent, a person may successfully complete training but still require workplace experience, coaching, mentoring, supervision, or additional practice. So after training is completed, he still needs to undergo all the workplace experience and so forth, any of those bullet points, before competence can be achieved. Then accredited training and quality assurance. Firstly, we need to define what is accredited training. Accredited training refers to learning programs that have been approved by a recognized quality assurance body and meets specific national standards. Right? In the pre-2009 training sphere, we all had to register or accredit through different SETAs. Nowadays, this is all moving over to the QCTO, and we all have to align to their standards. In South Africa, accredited training is regulated through the QCTO, through SETAs, through the Department of Employment of Labour for certain programs, as well as through recognized regulatory or professional bodies like the IWH, for instance. Why does accreditation matter? As skills development providers, we get this question often from clients when they ask you, but why must it specifically be accredited training? So making sure that your training is accredited will ensure that your training meets national standards because it's regulated. Learning outcomes are industry relevant. Those programs, that unit standards or that curriculums is developed with industry's input to make sure that it is relevant to what they are doing. Assessments are conducted fairly because there's guidelines for that. Learner achievements are recognized nationally and in some cases also internationally. Training providers are regularly monitored and audited. We have to go through verifications at prescribed intervals where they actually verify that we are still doing and what we're supposed to, as well as remaining compliant. Quality assurance principles. Quality insurance ensures that training remains relevant. In other words, training addresses workplace and industry requirements, and this is then again verified in the compliance evaluations. It remains consistent where all learners receive the same standard of training throughout the industry. It remains valid. Assessments measure what they are intended to measure. It remains reliable because assessment results are consistent and repeatable, as well as it remains fair where all learners are treated equally during training and assessment. And then the last one, it is transparent because training and assessment processes are clearly documented and communicated. Right? And that's why we need to be accredited and go through all of these principles. What are the benefits? It's improved safety performance because if you are properly trained, there is going to be better productivity. Your compliance will definitely increase. There's a reduced operational risk due to the people being trained on all the risk that is or that happens in the workplace. They will have a nationally recognized certificate that will be issued to them. It will enhance your employees' confidence because they will feel a lot more safer as well as competent in the job that they are intended to do. Right. Then touching on employer responsibilities when selecting providers, this is very, very important. And I cannot emphasize enough. There is a lot of, and I say this with the utmost respect, a lot of fly-by-night providers that come in and undercut professional providers with prices and all of that, but their standards does not meet the industry requirements as well as legislative, and that's why it's so important that an employer needs to take responsibility for selecting the providers correctly. There is due diligence that needs to be taken into account. Employers have a responsibility to ensure that the training provider selected is capable of delivering quality training that meets organizational and legal requirements. They need to verify the accreditation of the providers. They should confirm accreditation status, the scope of accreditation, the registration numbers, the expiry dates of registrations as well as accreditation dates, approval to deliver specific programs. They must make sure that the specific program is part of the scope of the provider so that they know that the provider that they are selecting can actually legally do all of the training. They also need to verify the facilitator and assessor credentials, just as important as making sure that the provider is accredited. They must ensure that facilitators are suitably qualified. Assessors are registered where required with the different CETAs or bodies or wherever. Moderators are appropriately qualified. They must be able to operate legally as they should. Personnel possesses relevant industry experience. In other words, those facilitators, assessors, moderators do have the relevant industry experience as required by the different CETAs and QCTO to make sure that they are actually SMEs in their field of activity. They need to also evaluate the training quality. Employers should consider training material quality, whether it meets with their requirements, practical training facilities, whether it's going to be in their workplace or at the provider's premises, the quality must meet the standards. Assessment methodologies, how will their people be assessed? Learner support systems, what support there would be for their learners during as well as after training. And then lastly, the quality management systems. Does this provider have an approved quality management system? Because that would be a clear indication that this provider is meeting industry and legislative requirements. Right, they need to take into consideration the industry experience of the providers. So training providers should have relevant industry knowledge, whatever their industry is where they are going to require training. Operational experience, do they have the necessary experience to operate in that area? Understanding of the workplace risks, they must understand which risks are present in their specific workplace. Sorry about that. With client requirements, are they familiar with what the client requires them to do? Do they understand that? Because that also plays a key role in proper training delivery. Right, then in the certificate process, now whether it's being a certificate that's issued by a provider or by a quality assurance body, there is certain processes involved and they need to verify or review that as well. Employers should understand that or how each certificates are issued. Again, there is certain processes, whether it's going to be a provider issuing certificate or the CETA or a professional body, they must understand how it is issued. Assessment requirements, what's going to be required for the final assessment. Record keeping processes, how and where these records will be kept, as well as verification procedures, if that is applicable. They need to understand, in some cases, verification has to happen first before the certificate can be issued, and they must ensure that they are aware of this. Then there's monitoring of training outcomes. Employers should evaluate whether training will result in improved performance, whether it's going to help their employees improve, increased productivity, enhanced safety, demonstrated competence. They must ensure that after this training is done, it has to have an advantage for them on those 4 bullet points. Okay. Then my last topic that I'm going to touch on is the practical assessment and workplace application. And then firstly, there's the question starts, why is practical assessment, why does it matter? Knowledge alone does not guarantee competence. If we think about it right at the beginning, knowledge is the input that we give to the learner. An individual may understand a process theoretically, but still be unable to perform it correctly in the workplace. Knowledge does not constitute that this person is competent in delivering this work process effectively. Practical assessment verifies that the learner can apply the knowledge, perform the required tasks, follow the correct procedures, operate the equipment safely, and respond appropriately to workplace situations. That's why practical assessment matters, where you can actually evaluate him while doing the task to make sure that he is a competent operator or whatever the task is that we are training. What are the benefits of practical assessment? It confirms competence. Practical assessment provides evidence that learners can perform the required tasks. This is where you actually can see if he can do it. It improves safety because workers who have demonstrated practical competence are less likely to make errors that could result in incidents or injuries because they were trained properly and they are able to do it in the workplace. They understand the risks better and they work safely according to that. It builds confidence because your learners will gain confidence through hands-on application of skills because you are there training them practically in the workplace. It gives them that confidence to do this competently at the end of the day. It also identifies gaps because during your practical assessments, you can identify areas where further coaching or development is needed to make sure that certain gaps identified is covered and your training is successful. And then lastly, it supports legal compliance. Many industries require proof of practical competence before workers may perform certain tasks, especially in the mining industry. Nowadays, they have a drive where they actually want to see the complete portfolio of the guy to make sure that he was tested according to the industry requirements as well. In a workplace application, so competence is strengthened when learning is applied in the real workplace conditions. It's always better or more advantageous to train them in their actual workplace so that they can demonstrate their knowledge that they gained in their actual task. Workplace application allows employees to reinforce their learning, gain experience, develop confidence, adapt to operational challenges, and demonstrate sustained competence where they can actually prove that they are competent workers. The competence development cycle, so just briefly, you start by your training, then it moves over to the knowledge assessment where you test them on the knowledge. Then it goes to the practical application where they are being trained practically on the task. Then it moves to coaching and mentoring where you guide them, identify gaps, and coach them to do it safely. Then there's the workplace experience part where they actually have to gain experience in the workplace to make sure that they gather all the required notional hours. The competence verification to make sure that they are competent, where we come in and we actually observe them in the workplace and making sure that they are competent. And then lastly, this all grows into ongoing development. Once we've finished with the one program, then the cycle starts again with the next, and it all delivers an ongoing training and development cycle for this learner in his career path. In conclusion, training providers play an important role in developing workforce capability, but training alone does not guarantee competence. Employers must select reputable, quality-assured training providers and ensure that learning is supported by practical assessment as well as workplace application. By focusing on competence rather than simply attendance or certification, organizations can improve safety, productivity, compliance, and overall operational performance. That's the end of my presentation. Thank you, Lazani. I'm not sure if there's any questions for me. Oh, Anli, sorry.
Thank you very much, Johan. We appreciate it. I see there's quite a bit of questions and answers from sparing out of your presentation. So I presume the attendees have found a lot of valuable information and need also some guidance on some information and points that they have raised. If you can have a look at that for me. I do see Mr. Kevin, perhaps you can answer this question, Johan, is what's the point of accredited training if bodies such as SACP CMP rejects training as CPD? If we are forced to only use SACP CMP CPD accredited trainings, then what happens to the training industry?
Yeah, I understand the question. Unfortunately, we have to understand clearly that accredited training is something that initially is that you train your learner on. It is something apart from CPD training, because you have to get this guy trained. Now, depending on, in my view, and so this is my view, can I just say this? Depending on what programs it is that you are talking about. So it's quite difficult for me to answer this specific to the point, because we deal with different industries in our company. So if it is lifting machinery, there's legislative guidance as to how it must be recertified. But CPD is an ongoing awareness type of training where you make sure that your learner remains competent in the field. I'm not sure if that makes understanding. Your accredited training, just to summarize it, is your initial training where this guy is found competent. And then through your CPD, you verify his competence on an ongoing through a certain period. I'm not sure if that makes sense, Annelie.
Yes, it does. Thank you very much. I see there's also Mrs. Chantal Pinar asked, some training providers omit placing the required information on their certificates. As someone who vets documents that include certificates, how does one raise the issue of certificates with no certificate numbers, assessor numbers, no company contact details, etc.?
If you get a certificate like that, you can know it's a fly-by-night. I'm sorry, there is specific requirements that needs to be as a minimum on a certificate. You need to be able to verify it. I cannot tell you as a training provider, and we do everything that the NCOP, because we're also doing lifting, so all our certificates adhere to all the requirements that the NCOP provides. Plus, we have a QR code on our certificate, and still we get on a weekly basis certificates to verify it, and it is not true. It was falsified at some stage. Unfortunately, technology has provided the people with the means to easily falsify certificates. So it's very important that you need to verify certificates with the appropriate providers or through an appropriate vetting agency.
Perfect, thank you. And can I ask you one last question?
Yes.
From Mr. Sean Venska. I also, in my experience, see a lot of this in the industry because most of the certificates state competency. He's asking, good morning. That's an interesting point about certificates alone not being proof of competence, and it makes sense taking into account the legal definition of a competent person. Would it not then be appropriate to refer to it as a certificate of training or similar term and not as a certificate of competency?
Very important question, and thank you for that question. Yes, a certificate needs to define specifically what it is. Nowadays, unfortunately, with growing technology, a lot of e-learning certificates are being issued. Again, personally, an e-learning certificate for me is a certificate that should not say competence, because competence can only be proven once a practical verification had been done. Competence, and again, I'm very old school still, so I feel that in order to issue a certificate that says certificate of competence, there must be an assessor involved that would actually observe this worker in the workplace and making sure he works as per the requirements. And this is also said clearly in all the unit standards previously as now the curriculums on QCTO, where there's a competence factor in all of this programs that they've put out. So it is important that certificates must be issued properly with the correct wording whether it being an attendance certificate or a competence.
Oh, perfect. Thank you, Mr. Yuan. I promise it's your very last question I'm going to ask you. Is also from Octavia. Is why do some certificates have expiry dates and others not, even though it's for the same course or topic?
Again, that's something that should be taken up with the provider. There is certain legislative certificates that do carry only a certain period of, like your first aid certificates is legislated for a certain period. But I do know that some providers do issue certificates with an expiry date on it, which means that certificate is only valid for a certain period, which then again raises the question why? Because if this person has been trained and found competent, you cannot take that competence away from him after 2 years by his certificate expiring. There is other scenarios also where we've encountered where a client insists on having a certificate of competence for a forklift, for instance, and stating that he wants expiry dates on it because he wants his people retrained every 2 or 3 years. So again, that's something that you should go into discussion with your provider and ask him the reason for it. Yeah.
Perfect. Thanks, Johan. I really appreciate it. It seems like your presentation has opened up the whole new platform for discussions. We really appreciate your time. I do, however, just want to answer one question or request Mrs. Lazani Wolf just to answer one question that has been raised in the Q&A, which is what should we do if a training provider gives a 2 or 3 day training in 1 day and issues a certificate that was issued through IWH?
Hi. You should please email me all the information that you have so that we can take action and investigate the situation. I'm not sure who the question came from, but please email me on manager@profbody.co.za. I would appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Wolf. And thank you again, Mr. Johan van Staden-Coetzer. I'm going to introduce our next speaker, who will be Mr. Gerard van Niekerk, from the owner of RM Construction and Maintenance. We will be speaking on the business value of industry participation. Mr. Gerard.
Hi, good morning. Yeah, first of all, thank you for having us. It's a real privilege for us. We, as a contractor associated with AFRC, previously Prava, when Prava started a few years ago, we were very, very, very excited about it because we got an association that we can go to because of the standards and the liability factor that wasn't there before in industry. So just a little bit from myself is that from our background, I'll be chatting more about the technical issues that we experience, and that's why we're using AFRC as our association, from the technical to the training to the backup and to the customer side, what we experiencing, and that's a very important point for us as a company. I think our company was one of the first that joined the association. I'm in the roofing industry about 25 years, and it was the first thing that I saw, and yeah, we were so chuffed about it, and yeah, and it worked for us. It turned around a lot of things for us, and confidence in the company and our clients. We can go to the next slide now. So
Gerrit?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, you can go to the
Thanks.
next slide now. So, the big question is why we joined AFRC. So Bravo, and in the past few years. So this is just two technical pictures that I put in there, and that's the main reasons. And we're struggling with this every day because there's guys out there that's doing the different things that on roofs that's not supposed to be done, and so on. So on the roof on the left, you can see the silver part. Number one, the solar panels is installed incorrectly. You can see the brown parts on the silver. There is some ponding taking place. So we'll be ponding, there's leaks. So that's just a few points. On the picture on the right hand side, you'll see that just with the eye. I haven't. This particular roof. I didn't walk on it. With the eye, you can see there's like 2 or 3 contractors worked on it. So that is why we as a company like to promote and stay in line with the standards of roofing, because these guys out there that this guy I think is going to use we call it in the industry pop and lap. He buys it at 200 Rand tin and he tries and fix things. So on this particular project, it was a project in Eagle Canyon Estate in the west, and we did 61 units, and all of them had similar and different problems because as they changed the contractors, the methods changed. So that is why we use AFRC here. Next slide, please. So we stay aligned in ethical business practices, and I'll touch on it because the ethical. When you meet a client and you say, we're doing roofs and we're doing, you can give them a guarantee. Other guys do the same thing. Okay, so there's no standard, and with AFRC, there's a standard. If you do a 5-year, if you do a tiled roof, which we done there, we can issue a CPC certificate, and on that certificate state that what faults there were and what we repaired, and your guarantee on that. So for the client, that already is a plus. So the other guy, like we called him the Bucky Brigade, he'll give you some of them actually give you a 10-year guarantee, but they don't give it to you in writing. They haven't got the association behind them, and then that's what we got. We got the association behind us because we were trained for it, and we're doing ethical business. It's not just hit and run, then they're gone. The next day they're gone. Next slide. Yeah, there's a lot of changes in the roofing industry. So for us to keep up with the pace, AFRC, they all the time they email us and say, okay, like last year there's a new tile from Harvey Tile. They actually started it in America, but we manufacture it here in South Africa, and the tile is like we're exporting to America, but the tile is only launched in South Africa because it works so well in America, and for us it's a, and for the clients, especially for the clients, the roof and the tiles can last longer. And we didn't know about it, and I was surprised that they actually did it in America, like hundreds of thousands of tiles roofs already, and that was the changes, and they keep you updated on because they got a close relationship with the suppliers and manufacturers. Next one, sorry, I see you want to go to the next one. Access, training, and support. Yeah. So as a team, so we quite a few members, and we know each other. Some of us we don't always see each other because we see each other as owners in the training and then support and technical guidance when something new comes out, or we bring our staff out there to train. So especially new staff, like myself, the company grew. Then I trained staff on the route, but for him to be trained properly, we train him. We send him to AFRC for proper training and technical support and guidance. And they train him for it's like a whole weekend. After that, then he gets his certificate and stuff like that. Next one. Yeah, so like I mentioned, we got a network of contractors and suppliers like Orbital. If you've got a problem with a product, you can phone them up or WhatsApp up, and they'll try and solve you or help you. And if the product failed, and whether it's waterproofing product or just a towel, you can phone them up and say, listen, why is this doing this? And that is very important for us because the smaller guys, I wouldn't say there's some smaller guys because there's some that bigger guys that's not association with AFRC. They don't have that. So, and it's not. They're using the same suppliers as us, so they come up with different excuses. So that's why, from our experience on site, when a product failed, then they say, yeah, this guy from this company and this supplier. Then I go to the supplier, and then he used the same supplier, but his application or his method he didn't do correct, and that's why we so close with the suppliers as well. Next point, please. Yeah, client confidence. So like I mentioned before, my first slide, when Praba was announced that, and I'm a proud member of it, which is now AFRC. Our work, mostly our work is for roofs. Is 80% of the roofs we do for estates, big estates, townhouse complexes, property management companies. So I can use example for a townhouse complex of 45 roofs that I've quoted on. So we were three. They normally ask for 3 quotes. So what I won the quote, obviously, and why I won the quote is because I can give them a guarantee in paper, on paper, a proper paper with the guarantee with this association. So the other guys were just normal companies. They were in the business for 15 years, 30 years, but they don't have a backup. Like for me, the biggest point, I've got a backup because of AFRC is a backup for me and my company, because we can, we're not selling what we don't have. And those guys, that's what they do. So if I, as a company, give a client 5-year guarantee and I don't stick to it, AFRC will come to me and say, but why don't you do this? And it's a watchdog for me, and that's very, very important. And that's a huge selling point for us. Huge. Next point, please. So you remember in the beginning there was 2 pictures that was this two's not so nice, faulty workmanship. So this is the same roofs, it's just differently done. The pictures is just not to the other one was with drone, this one was we were on the roof. So it's chalk and cheese. So this comes back to minimum standards, which we learned from AFRC. So it is the association standards helps us as a company to reach goals like this, and it's your name that's out there that will bring you in more work and yeah, repertoire. You can get more bigger jobs as well. So like for us as RM, that's what's helped us. Next one, thanks. Yeah, improve workmanship, technical. So some of the guys they got the old styles, but especially the old workers and employees, they got the style they try to work, but what they don't understand, the industry is changing. I would say the trade is changing. So we need to send them all continuously to improve their technical ability and safety and workmanship. To say, listen, you know, that we need to uplift this because this is your weak point and things change. Next point, please. Yeah, so I think I touched on it, the commitment and equality and professionalism. So and it's from my point of view. So my competitors can shoot me down or whatever they can do. But from my point of view, if somebody talks about FRC or PRAWA bad, then I jump in. So the quality and the professionalism that we deliver to the customers is because of the training we get from the association and the backup. So we don't get there with guys that's 20 guys and 20 different styles of overalls, and this guy came from there and there and there. If the guy wasn't trained, then he can't go onto site. When he left the one company and came to us, he can't go onto site. Next slide, please. Yeah, so like I mentioned earlier, stay updated with industry and requirements. It's very, very, very important. Like I said, when there was with the tiles, I had an issue with the product that we can use on the Facebook or wherever overseas. They use this product and that product, and some guys use the wrong product onto the wrong roof, and there's a lot of I call them cowboys that manufacture. They get the guarantee the client like 15 years. If I seal your roof with this rubber liquid, you get a 15-year guarantee with no paperwork. So number one, that client will have problems after 5 years. Number two, his insurance won't pay out for his sealing because his sealing will be damaged, and he'll have to pay again to fix his roof. With us, we got a backup. It's in writing. The client's got a proof certificate that he can send to his insurance that I've gave him a guarantee, and I've got a backup of AFRC, which actually happened. And look, if somebody tells you, from my point of view as a contractor, you don't have comebacks. I had a small leak on one complex, and the insurance was an insurance broker, and yeah, the tile moved, the roof leaked, we fixed the ceiling, and we have to stay by that law because we gave on paper we had to give that guarantee from AFRC, which again opened more doors for us because we part of association, and the guy from insurance which did the inspection, put us on their panel. Because on insurance, or any insurance, when your roof is leaking, they will ask you, when last did you service your roof, sir? And the guys won't answer because they don't know, most of them. So that's very important. We need to have a backup, which I have as a contractor and other contractors. We got a backup, and we can give them a certificate when last. And we'll tell them, listen here, after 5 years, you need to redo your roof again, service, and then we can give you a certificate again. Next slide, please. Nick? Yeah, so how training and professionalism and membership work together. So, yeah, if you're in a construction company, IT company, whatever company you're in, you need training constantly training and recognition, which AFRC does. If the guy is qualified after the course they've done, whether it's torch on or flat roof, IBR, slate roof, they issue a certificate, and he won't understand how much it means to the guys that they got a certificate. Not all of them pass the first shot because they don't study and they don't listen sometimes. But if they pass, it changes them as a person, and for the company, we're very proud to that they do stuff like that. Is yeah, and then the members that we link up to each other when. For association membership is very important because if I'm fully booked for 2 months on roofs, I'll go to Brandon and say, listen, I've got a problem, I've got a job here, are you interested? Have you got a contractor you can brief this job on? Because I don't want to lose the client, and there's some other guys who want to put it on. Next slide, please. Yeah, it works hand in hand, improve technical knowledge, increase employees, the workmanship standards. It's because of the association that it belongs to. On the part of health and safety, for us as roofers, health and safety is a major must have because as we work on roofs and harnesses and working at heights and so on. So for that is also AFRCs, they help us with that. Technical resources. I can tell you a long story for technical resources and support. Yeah, we work as a family. I've got some scaffolds, and I get to site and I'm 5 meters short. Then I phone one of the guys that's with the association, and yeah, we help each other. And then he said, no, I've got 4. You can come borrow it, and there's technical support or from AFRCs. They can organize it. Increased clients performance, confidence, and satisfaction. For me again, and I touch on it. That piece of paper, it's an electronic piece of paper, and it's numbered, and everything is legal. For me, the client, that satisfaction that they get after his roof has been done, he knows you're not lying to him. You're part of a bigger group than this guys that's just saying 10 years, 15 years, because we're part of association. If I myself, I can with honestly say, if I didn't we're part of the association AFRC or PROA. Just the example, in the last 2 years, on my roofing side, my turnover doubled because of the professionalism and the customer satisfaction. So with that, also a stronger relationship with the suppliers and the industry professionals that helped me. And the last point is on ongoing training. So if the guys train, they train, especially in our industry, they train, and at times we as owners, well, myself as an owner, we can see when they're losing track on training. Then we send them back to the AFRC just to do a little bit of course again, just to remind them what is the correct way and wrong way, because I've got the knowledge, but I'm not a trainer. And the training that I received and there's a certificate that was valid there, I'm not going to train him differently. Or my foreman won't change him or train him differently. That's why the association is there for us. And the ongoing training is a must in our company. And if guys lose the track somewhere, they go straight there and redo the course again. Next slide, please. So on this, improve compliance. Made a note on here, which is also very important. The industry standards, regulations, and ethical business. For me, and I'm going to use the name JBC Roofing, Spec Roofing. It's very, very, very important to recognize the industry standards and regulations and ethical business practices. So for me, the most important point is the ethical business practices, which we run hand in hand with AFRC. So there's a lot of guys out there that's not ethical with business. They take a deposit and they run away, and yeah, it comes back to us, or I don't know what happens. So improve competence. Let's get my note here. That's the point I wanted to bring up. So it's the knowledge and the skills. You know, if you don't have knowledge and skills on any, if you're a roofer or bricklayer or a electrician, you haven't got that, and you're not continuously bringing on the training and the changes, your company will fail because your project won't be completed in time. But for us, luckily, it's more efficient and it's of a higher standard. If you can look at other pictures that and projects that you completed, if we take pictures before, during, after, and the other guys, JBC and Spec Roofs and those guys also can show you the standard that we work with and then the standard that the Bucky guys work on is completely different. And the last point, a market, the credibility, quality workmanship, and again, client confidence. That for me as an owner and the rep, it's a selling point for me. The previous 3 guys were there, and selling point for me, the customer will talk of what they can do or whatever, and I'll say I'm a association member and I can issue a certificate, And that's where it ends. And then that's how the selling point begins, because they got that peace of mind that you can offer them something. Yeah, and that's from me. If you got any questions, yeah, we're here to answer. If I can't answer, I'll try and answer it by email. But thank you very much for your time, and I hope it was good information.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gerrit. I think it was valuable information of why to join an association from an employer's point of view, and not from the actual association or professional body side. Our next speaker is Senior Elizabeth Ferguson from OHA. Apologies, from Oshcare. Mrs. Elizabeth.
Good morning. So let me just share my screen. Can everyone see that?
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay, good. So good morning. And first off, I just want to say thanks for the opportunity. Thank you to Gerard Roots for inviting us to participate in the webinar. So I'll just jump right into it. Over the next 20 minutes or so, I just want to talk about medical examinations as opposed to medical surveillance. What is the difference? How does this medical surveillance fit into our risk control management? And why is it so important in preventing occupational disease? And what is really the importance of this early detection and intervention? And then to close off, I'm just going to talk a little bit about certificate of fitness and what do we really want to see on certificate of fitness. So if we talk about the once-off medical examination, really it's a single examination that's conducted at a single point of time. We look at these kind of examples like pre-employment medicals, pre-placement assessments, return to work medicals. And remember, return to work medical would be the assessment as the person returns from an injury or illness. And then there may be some sequential assessments done as well during that return to work plan. Exit medicals are also a single assessment at a single point of time. Fitness for duty assessments, again, these may be short medicals that are done for a specific task and to assess the fitness of the employee to be working. So really, when you look at the purpose of this once-off medical examination, it's usually to assess the fitness for a specific task or role. It establishes the baseline by which we would then use that for any further comparisons in ongoing surveillance, and it determines whether there should be restrictions or accommodations. So the important thing is that it provides a snapshot, okay, of the worker's health at that time. So by definition, if we look at medical surveillance, this is a planned program of health assessments. So it's performed on workers who are exposed to workplace hazards. And there's this ongoing monitoring through the repeated medical assessments throughout their employment. Keep in mind that the pre-employment that was done, the pre-employment examination or the initial entry examination, could be the baseline, and then all ongoing assessments are compared to that. So really the purpose of medical surveillance, if we look at it, is to detect any adverse health effects as early as possible, to determine whether the control measures that we're using for hazard control in the workplace are effective. We aim to prevent occupational disease, and it ensures that the workers remain fit and perform their work safely. So the key message out of this is that the medical surveillance doesn't replace hazard control, but it evaluates whether the existing controls are continuing to protect the worker. So this health monitoring, if we look at it as repeated assessments throughout the employment pathway, the examples would be periodic or annual medical surveillance, periodic hearing tests, and these are largely determined by the code of practice around audiometry. Lung function testing, okay, that would also be determined largely around the exposure profile. Biological monitoring that may be conducted where there are exposures that could have biological effects that we can measure. Vision screening to particularly where we're looking at vision critical tasks, and then chest x-rays where required. And the purpose of this ongoing assessment is that it's going to detect the changes that could occur over time. Obviously, will then give us an indication of any development of occupational disease. And as I said previously, it monitors the effectiveness in the workplace controls. So if we compare the two, we can see that on once-off medical examinations, it's a snapshot of the health. It determines fitness at the time. It establishes a baseline, but it doesn't detect any progression. Whereas medical surveillance or this ongoing health monitoring is conducted regularly through the employment pathway. It tracks health over time. It looks for early signs of development of occupational disease and the ongoing fitness of that worker to be in the workplace. It identifies trends in various exposure groups and obviously detects any gradual deterioration that may be occurring. So why is one medical not enough? So mainly because if we look at occupational disease, they develop slowly, develops over time. For example, noise-induced hearing loss, over years of exposure, occupational asthma, again, over time that someone may be sensitized and develop asthma. So these occupational diseases happen over time. And initially, the worker may not have any symptoms until there's significant damage. And that's what we want to really get into, prevent and intervene. So this regular surveillance is going to look at and detect subtle changes and then obviously be able to intervene before permanent disability develops. So we can also see medical surveillance within the risk control context. So using hierarchy of controls, medical surveillance is considered an administrative control. It would change the way people work. So it helps the organization, number one, to verify that engineering controls that are in place are effective, that if there have been unidentified or unexpected exposures, it will help to identify these. If there's failures in personal protective equipment, so again, can identify that those are occurring, evaluates the workplace risk management program. And the one thing to be quite clear on is that this administrative control measures the effect on the worker and not on the hazard itself. So if we look at the prevention, it contributes by detecting these early changes that could occur in the worker. It identifies where workers are at an increased risk if there's any change in exposures. It may trigger workplace investigations if there's significant health exposures. It would also prompt the development or improvement of engineering controls at a higher level. Certainly reinforces employee education and then it prevents any disease progression. So keep in mind that we always want to be looking on the prevention side, so that early detection, okay, will equal a better outcome for the employee. So what happens when surveillance identifies abnormal results? Well, the possible interventions would include that perhaps the testing needs to be repeated to verify that result. Then there would be medical referral and specialist, medical specialist assessment may require additional testing. There may be temporary removal from the exposure during that investigation, that medical investigation. And then as a result, this might require job modification or accommodations. It certainly could improve usage or increase the reliance on the PPE. There could be engineering improvements following on these findings, and then again would reinforce employee retraining and education in the working in and around that particular exposure. So the goal really of this is to prevent permanent disease developing. Examples of surveillance programs, if we have a look at hazards in the workplace, we know that noise, the surveillance program would include an hearing conservation program and audiometry, silica dust, spirometry, chest imaging, exposure to lead would be biological monitoring, measuring blood levels, measuring other biological indicators, certainly biological monitoring for biological effects, in solvent exposure, vision screening for vision critical work, particularly where we want to see if there has been any deterioration or requirement to support an employee with corrected vision. Respiratory irritants, again, lung function testing, okay, will help us to identify where that may be occurring. But the surveillance must always match what is the workplace risk assessment. So we talk very clearly about a risk-based medical surveillance rather than just the conduct of these mindless medicals that test everything for everyone. So the health risk assessment is what really informs how the medical surveillance program would be developed. And if we have a look at the health risk assessment, there would be a quantitative assessment of the exposure to various hazards. And based on that, in that risk management, there would then be this administrative control implemented for each of the exposures that that particular employee is working within. And that would go on to then develop their risk exposure profile and would then point to the type of surveillance that they would be required to perform. So what are the job-specific requirements? What are the exposures and risks that they have? And then obviously, what PPE are they required to use? And are they able to use that safely? So it could be also, as we see employers provide the information of exposures, what is the job role, what are the specific requirements and the protective equipment on an Annexure 3. And this would then be the declaration that's provided by the medical examiner to say that the person does meet those requirements. So the roles and responsibilities in medical surveillance, the employer has the responsibility to conduct the risk assessment and to then facilitate the appropriate surveillance. And they are then required to act when there's abnormal findings. And obviously the records are maintained confidentially. The occupational health practitioner is obviously performing the surveillance interpreting the results, recommending what interventions need to be made, and then referring employees where necessary, where there needs to be additional medical investigation conducted. The employee's responsibility then obviously is to attend the surveillance. They're expected to report their symptoms promptly and to make use of all safety equipment and protective equipment correctly, and to follow the safe work practices. So the integration of these various responsibilities is really what keeps the worker safe in the environment. So the benefits for the worker is that there would be early recognition, better health outcome, where there would be a reduction in any disabilities, and that the workplace would be safer, and that they would be appropriately placed in the various roles that they may fulfill. For the employer, there's a demonstration of duty of care. Obviously, there's a reduction in this risk for occupational disease to develop. Compensation costs obviously would be lower, and then compliance with legislation and improved productivity are also part of those benefits. So if we just have a look at a case study, a scenario where a welder has had normal lung function at the time of their employment. His ongoing health monitoring for 5 years shows that he has he's having spirometry performed. In year 4, it's identified that there's a small reduction in the lung function, and the subjective report from the employee is that he is experiencing breathlessness. So what action needs to be taken? This workplace exposure investigation needs to be done. There would be a referral to a respiratory specialist to conduct some further testing. And this may then lead to improved engineering controls, improved local exhaust ventilation of that work area, perhaps enhanced respiratory protection. So these are the spin-offs that come out of that investigation. And then the outcome, obviously, is that the disease progression is prevented, okay, through this early intervention. So really the take-home message is that the once-off examination provides only the baseline or snapshot, and it's the ongoing health monitoring that identifies the changes over time, where the medical surveillance is mitigating risk control. It focuses on the worker and not on the hazard. Okay, the early detection allows us to intervene early, and the surveillance helps evaluate whether workplace controls are effective. So the medical surveillance really protects both the workers and the employer. So if we just move on and discuss a little around the certificate of fitness. So this COF, okay, is a medical document which is completed by the occupational health practitioner after they've assessed the worker's fitness to perform specific job tasks. So the certificate communicates fitness for work, and it's not there to disclose any confidential medical diagnoses or any detailed medical information. The purpose is to protect the health and safety of the employee, to protect the co-workers and the public, to assist employers in placing that employee appropriately, and to meet the legal and workplace requirements. So what information do we find or need to find on a COF? So firstly, there should be the full details identifying the employee, his full name and identification number, date of birth where that's applicable, the employer details, the company name, the worksite or department that he's appointed in, and often the role that he's doing in that department. And then the date of the examination, the type of examination, and then it clearly needs to state the fitness decision. So is the employee fit for duty? Are they fit with restrictions? Are they temporarily unfit? Are they permanently unfit? Okay, and where applicable, there must be a clear statement of the work restrictions or accommodations that are required. The practitioner information. So every legitimate COF needs to contain the name of the examining occupational health practitioner, their professional designation, whether it's an occupational health nurse or a medical practitioner, the practice number, and the registration number of the relevant professional council, the signature of the practitioner, and the date of issue. So and may include also a practice stamp, and the certificate should be legible and professionally completed. Just around confidentiality, so a certificate of fitness should not include medical diagnoses, HIV status, pregnancy status, unless this has been already disclosed and is directly relevant. Okay, chronic illnesses, laboratory results, medication details, detailed clinical findings have absolutely no place on a certificate of fitness. The employer needs to know whether the employee is fit to work, if there are any functional limitations or restrictions, and when is the recommended review date. So these are the really three important facts. Just signs to be alert for is where there are missing signatures, where there is no registration or practice number evident, where there are missing examination dates, where dates have been altered, and particularly where there's hand altered or changes on the document in different handwriting, where there's spelling mistakes and grammatical errors, where there's certificates that have been photocopied and maybe they are distorted or unclear practice stamps, the employee details are not correct or are missing parts of the information, where there's been obvious alterations made, where there's poor quality logos and letterheads, and fraudulent certificates frequently will have multiple inconsistencies. So how does one go about verifying a certificate of fitness? So one needs to check that certificate and see that the required information is present. One can confirm practitioners' registrations with the relevant professional councils, so Health Professions Council of South Africa for medical practitioners, or the South African Nursing Council for the OHNs. Contact the issuing practice using an independently obtained contact detail, not the details that are shown on that certificate, if you are suspicious that this may be fraudulent. Compare the certificate with previous genuine certificates from the same practice or the same provider, and follow the organization's policy that for any suspected fraudulent documents. Importantly, never accuse an employee of fraud until the certificate has been fully verified. So really the take-home message for this is the COF communicates fitness for work, not confidential information. As stated previously, it should include employee identification, employer details, examination date, the decision, the fitness decision, and clearly any restrictions or accommodations that are required, and then the practitioner details, registration number, signature, and date of issue, as well as the date for review. So importantly, just always verify suspicious certificates before taking any action, and protect both the employee confidentiality and the integrity of the medical surveillance program. So in closing, thank you very much for the opportunity to share this information. I'm not sure if there are any questions.
Thank you very much, Senior Ferguson. It was a very, very informative presentation. We have quite a number of questions for you, if you won't mind answering some of them.
Okay.
The first one from, I apologize if I get the name wrong, Maivi Lindor. Can a medical surveillance be done 2 yearly, and what determines when it must be done annually or 2 years?
So really it goes around the risk exposure profile. So obviously lower risk roles and tasks, this can be done, the frequency can actually be extended to 2 years, but where there's a higher exposure and higher risk tasks, then this may be annual, or for instance, in high noise exposures, again, legislated in the code of practice is that this would be even more frequent. Remember also the practitioner may determine that the surveillance needs to be done more regularly as well. So I hope that answers the question.
Yes, thank you very much. The next question is from Jenny van Onselen. What is the procedure if you have a worker or driver that has high blood pressure? The OHS doctor has declared them fit on the condition that they take their medication and come for retesting or medicals. Is the follow-up the responsibility of the worker or the employer, and who needs to pay for these follow-up medicals?
So remember the fitness for that role, okay, would be the individual needs to have a controlled medical condition. So if he has got, for instance, if he has hypertension, if this hypertension is well controlled, and that would be established by obviously measuring the blood pressure, physically examining him, we would then make him fit subject to the control of that condition. So it needs to be clear on his fitness certificate that his fitness is subject to the control of that. In terms of the responsibility, well, the employee has a responsibility for presenting himself fit for work, and that means his blood pressure should be controlled. And secondly, the employer, okay, needs to ensure that he's having that worker in a fit state to be performing that role. So for instance, driving would be really an important one. So there's a shared responsibility on both the employee and the employer. And usually this would be ongoing health monitoring. So the employee needs to be seeing his own service provider and carrying that cost for the control of that. If he's required to return for fitness assessment, then that would be the employer's cost. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you very much. We've got a question from Johan Cornelissen. Should normal office workers have medicals done?
So again, that would be considered a much lower risk environment. But remember, a normal office worker does have some exposures, often ergonomic exposures. And really at the start, and if we look at World Health Organization recognition of chronic illness as a risk for the employer. So remember, the employee brings his chronic illnesses to the workplace. So we want to make sure that those are well controlled. I think during COVID, employers really understood that very, very well, that people with chronic conditions really did increase the risk. So in terms of vulnerable employees. And so we want to make sure that that once-off assessment at the start identifies people who may need to control medical conditions to be in the workplace. And then we want to just really have a look at that office worker and say, what are his exposures? Okay, does he have ergonomic exposure? And we know that most office workers sitting at a desk working do have that. And so it may not require him to have intensive medical surveillance, but certainly risk-based. So yes, there is a place for them to have medical surveillance.
Thank you. A question from Maivi Lindor. Is it legal not to appoint new employees if they are found to be fit but with restrictions or conditions?
So so controllable medical conditions, okay, that don't pose an additional risk in terms of operational requirements for that employer, okay, should be managed in the workplace by the employee, obviously managing his own health, but also in terms of his appointment. So a medical condition would not exclude him, but the medical condition has to be controlled and has to fit within the operational requirement. So if that medical condition is impacting on the operational requirement, then the employee can be excluded from that role.
All right, thank you. Nokulunga wants to know if there's any system where we can verify whether a doctor is a registered occupational practitioner.
So that can be done through the Health Professions Council. So the doctors, you can use, they have an e-register online. So you can use the MP number, the practitioner's number, and that can be verified then.
Thank you. Genevieve is asking if signing on a pregnant lady in a high-risk industry is very risky for employers. Can a OMP indicate this on high restrictions on the COF?
Yes. So as I mentioned, pregnancy is quite unique because we encourage, obviously, female employees to notify the employer at the earliest point of the pregnancy, at which time a risk assessment needs to be done as to what is that employee's exposures and what is the impact on pregnancy. So that certainly can be divulged, okay, on the COF. And generally speaking, if there are high physical exposures, chemical exposures, the employee needs to be accommodated in a different role. It's a small price to pay in terms of time for a healthy outcome for both mom and infant.
Thank you. Sorry, there's quite a number of questions for you. Genevieve is also asking if you perhaps have a blank health and safety risk assessment for the medical surveillance or the health risks that you would be able to share with them.
She can contact me directly. I think you've got my contact details.
Yes, I will share your details with all the attendees at the end of the presentation when we send out the presentations as well.
Okay.
Then Lavoy is asking, is exit medicals to be conducted for employees moving from one project to another?
So the
And if it-
exit medical will be the exit for that particular role. If they're moving to a different project, and they're going to have exactly the same exposures, one is able to use the exit and the initial for that if as long as the exposures are not changing and it's for the same role, one can use those, and an exit is even accepted up to, so previous surveillance that was done within 6 months can be accepted for that exit from that particular role.
Thank you very much. And is exit medicals a legal requirement?
So yes, and certain of the certain of the information in fact needs to be shared also with the employee. So for instance, the exit audiogram needs to be shared with the employee.
Thank you very much. There's still a couple of Q&As. Due to the time constraint, we unfortunately won't be able to get to all of them at the moment. But Ms. Ferguson, thank you so much again for your time and a very, very informative and interesting presentation from your side. We will, however, answer all these questions before we send out these Q&As received during all the presentations that we've had. Mr. Brian Randall, I'd just like to find out, would you like to do 1 or 2 points from the panel discussion, or are you happy doing your closing statement?
Only thank you. Thank you very much. I think I've listened to some wonderful information coming through, and it just shows you the need for listening to what people want and the things that bother them. And now specifically listening to the whole medical process at the end here, it doesn't relate directly to our webinar's initial statement, but it just shows you how when you ask questions or you speak about a certain subject, how questions arise. And I'm very pleased that the way that we handled all of this. Thank you. I'm very pleased with that. I can tell you that I think we wanted to set aside time for panel discussion. I don't believe we have the time. However, there are two issues that I listened to very carefully and that I would like to just respond on very briefly as part of my closing statement. And that is the one question that kept on coming up relates to expiry dates, and the second one about CPD. Now, my understanding of expiry dates follows the processes that we've had in writing from the QCTO, in which they state quite clearly that once you've been through a training process, in other words, you've done a qualification, as per their nomenclature, your achievement of learning, that does not have an expiry date, full stop. That's a simple process. There is no expiry date on your matric or my matric, and I did mine in 1966, by the way. Okay, so it doesn't expire. I would hate to try and compete against modern people who are doing their matric today in terms of maths and science. And if I wanted to, I would have had to do some form of CPD to try and keep up with the way that the technology has moved forward. Now, that brings us then to CPD. CPD, in my mind, is applicable to professional people. That's what the abbreviation stands for, continuous or continual professional development. A person that comes in for first-time training or for first-time learning and has had absolutely no experience cannot be told that he is doing CPD. CPD is for people who are competent and who are professional, and that they are now updating their knowledge of their profession by doing additional learning, and that way allows them to maintain their professional designation. I think that's the only two issues that I really wanted to mention. And let me just add on to it. Some certificates do have expiry dates, but those certificates must be seen clearly for what they are. Certificate that you receive for the driving of a crane or of a forklift truck, mobile elevating work platforms, that is actually a license to operate. So your license to operate has got an expiry date on it, just like my driver's license and your driver's license also have expiry dates on it. And we need to go back for another eye test, and then they ask us maybe some questions if need be, and then we can get our license renewed. So licenses do have expiry dates, and a license to operate is very similar to a professional designation, which is also limited for a period of time and can only be renewed should the person have done proper CPD processes. So those two forms of certification, if I can call it that, the license to operate and the professional designation, they do have expiry dates on it. But your training that you did for your qualification never expires. Okay, I think that covers everything I wanted to say. And obviously, if there's the action to that, please put it in the chat box, and I'm sure we'll be able to answer those further on. In closing, then, let me thank Gareth from SIOS for organizing this thing in the background. Gareth, thank you as always. Well done. It's been beautifully put together. And the presenters, all of you, thank you. I really enjoyed your presentations. I learned quite a few things I thought I knew, but now I realize I didn't. So thank you very much for the presentations, very well presented to us. And let me say thank you to all of the people who joined in onto this webinar, and I trust that you all have learned something from it and gained some further knowledge from it. Thank you very much. Andy, I hand over to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Randall. Yes, just to include on the closing remarks, as we conclude today's webinar, I would just sincerely like to thank everyone who joined and contributed to making this a successful event. A special thanks go out to our presenters, Mr. Brandon Conradi from AFRC, Mr. Gerard Dritz from MBA North, Ms. Lizani Wolf from the Institute for Worker Rights, Mr. Johan van Staden-Kutzer from Starkroad 36, Mr. Gerard van Niekerk, RM Construction and Maintenance, and Senior Elizabeth Ferguson from Oshke. Thank you for sharing your knowledge and practical experience. Today's discussions highlights how industry associations, professional bodies and training providers, and occupational health practitioners each play a vital role in building a safer, more competent and professional construction industry. As Helen Cannon said during Gerard's presentation, alone we can do so little, together we can do so much. This perfectly reflects the spirit of today's webinar. We also extend our sincere appreciation to our collaborative partners, MBA North and SIOS, for hosting, and for your continued support and commitment to our industry. Finally, thank you to everyone who attended. We hope today's session has provided valuable insights that we can apply within your organizations. And on behalf of the Institute for Worker Rights and MBA North, thank you for spending your morning with us. Stay safe, keep learning, remain professionally engaged, and we look forward to welcoming you to our next event. Thank you and have a wonderful day.